Hey, hello everyone. This is my presentation. So I always been curious to understand the gap between people who say they are Christians, but they are not plugged in a church community like a local church, and therefore they are probably not receiving discipleship. So that's why my project is called Data Insights on Church Attendance and Discipleship. So the idea is to think of like ways into that the data would assist me to understand why that happens and maybe learn some insights on how to make it better, right? So that comes within my problem statement, which is like I mentioned, that many people identify themselves as Christians, but they do not attend a local church. And also, I'd like to understand why sometimes, and I've encountered people along the way that they do go to church every once in a while on Sundays, or sometimes even every Sunday, but they don't really get engaged, right? So for example, they don't go to small groups, they don't go to any Bible studies, they some of them they literally like go to service on Sunday, and that's it, right? And finally, um I believe that, and that's something that I could maybe try to prove, which is that it leads to weaker spiritual growth and lack of accountability, because the person is kind of, that's why I use this picture, because it gives the idea like that the person is kind of living his or her life on his own. And I truly believe that we were called to live in community. Right. So while I was trying to find some resources, like some sources that I could use, like to get data, I think the first thing that I noticed is how hard it is, like to find data sets that I could just like right away, like more structured data sets. So I believe that I would need to dig into more not so structured data. So I think that the mining part would be a little bit complicated. Although I did find some like research in Pew Research and Barna Group. So I was able to find like some numbers, but as for like literally like data sets and everything, I noticed that I would need to go deeper, which comes to my third point here, which is called local surveys and church records. Because what I try to think would be whether like I would be able to obtain data from churches. So for example, if the church tracks how many people attend Sunday services compared to how many people are engaged in small groups or in Bible studies, for example. And the last one, some scholarly research on digital religion and sociology of faith. So I was able to find like some books and some more like scholarly material that I would be able to dig in deeper in order to get more insights. So these are just some examples of what I was able to find. So Pew Research, for example, shows here like a decrease of people that identify themselves as Christians, and a little bit of increase of people that doesn't say anything at all. Although I have a feeling, but then again, I would need to prove this with data, that the Generation Z is changing this trend. So here, that is another one, right? That is in Barna data, that shows like people who are actually disciples. So you can see that it's just like 30% compared to 70 that are either not or not involved at all. Here was another data that I was able to find, but again, as I said, not structured. So I would need to do some kind of machine learning or something like that. So these are like reasons for people, like how would people separate the time towards spiritual growth, And I also saw that many people, they just like don't commit that much time. And here I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on that. So I was able to find that, for example, millennials and Gen Z, they are less engaged, like institutionalized wise, so they're not necessarily connected to churches. However, they are spiritual, let's put this way, right? But then again, I would need to get more data in order to confirm that. The second one is like post COVID, like it seems that many people who went to online, they never came back, or they came back but not fully. So they see which ones they didn't see like as something usual, which would be like watch service online. Now that many churches are streaming, so we've been seeing like a trend where people are kind of becoming like hybrid church. And lastly, some case studies showing that churches, they use, like I mentioned before, so many churches, they use some softwares to try to track their demographics, like the people that attend their church, their members. So they are able to find, for example, if they are registered to events, what if they are going to service, if they are checking in children in the kids ministry. So I believe that if I would be able, like for example, to gather those data sets, like those those data sets, that would be really really nice, because that would be like primary source. So different, for example, than some articles that would be like secondary. So I think that would be interesting to see. And going now towards the end of this presentation, um, I can highlight, right, this that discipleship and attendance, that there is a gap, right, between them, and which is the reason why I think would be a good study to understand why this gap exists, and maybe try to figure out and give suggestions on how to decrease that gap. Secondly, like digital and local strategies needed to bridge the gap. So how would we be able like to try to to fulfill this need of people that they are online, but then how would it be able like to serve those people, still like providing discipleship and everything? Or maybe even if it's the case, it's try to show these people how important it is like to have real life experience, not only online. And then the last one, which is I call it like future work. So and I think that's the whole point, right, of this of data science, which is how can I combine all this array of data, so from surveys that I can try to even create and just send to churches to ask them to complete, or obtain church records, or go online for all the information that I'm able to get from websites and from uh, public uh, public sources. And how would I be able to gather all of this, structure all of that, kind of like do like all the take it out whatever what is not important, or that's not how like it's not so good. For example, sometimes I might create columns that there is like more empty cells than cells with information. So for example, that probably be a column that I wouldn't just need to drop, or and also like other data sets that I would be able like to get, and then work on them to try to get insights from them. Because from what I understood in this first course, that's the main objective of data science. So it's not only to handle data just because, but it is to draw insights, to draw ideas, to draw like real information out of just a bunch of data. So I think that's it. And let's see what lays ahead of us. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day.